Next, we have Qualys' Director of Product Management, Andrew Morrisett, and Midwest Pet Foods IT Director, Larry D. Lawrence, to discuss how to revolutionize your endpoint security with integrated risk management. Right. Andrew and Larry, the stage is yours.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Sounds good. I'll put a timer on for us. Thanks, everyone, for being here. This is a fantastic conference. I know we're getting down to the wire here. This is my fourth QSC, fourth time presenting, topic I'm very passionate about. You're probably wondering why I named this Beyond Firefighting, so I'll get into that. With that said, how this is going to work is I don't want to just talk about Qualys products. I want to challenge the way you guys think about incident response and the way you interact with your SOC team. I say that because I know a majority of the people in the room are vulnerability management focused. If you do more with the SOC, this will be even more relevant, but I want to challenge the way you interact with your SOC. That's basically my main objective. So I'm going to go through a couple slides and a quick demo, and then we're going to have a chat with Larry. This is probably the most important part, so you don't have to listen to me. You can hear from a customer, their experience with Qualys and Qualys EDR. So with this said, let's kick it off. Let's sort of baseline. What are we seeing from a threat perspective? What are we observing in trends? We are definitely seeing a huge increase in vulnerabilities being exploited as the main way that bad guys are getting on devices. I don't want this 180% to just to be this big number. I mean, we are seeing this tried and true. Bad guys always had this in their playbook, but this is compared to last year. So it's a 2 to 3x from last year, where it may have been something in their toolbox, but is now one of the first things they use to break in. 73 days to contain a breach. I know some of you won't like this metric. I'm going to abstract this in the fact that you may have gotten 99% of the breach contained, but we are seeing still it's quite lengthy to fully contain everything. Patching, which you're kind of seeing the whole picture come together here. The bad guys are using lots of vulnerabilities. It's making it hard to contain a breach. And we're taking about 55 days to patch about half of the vulnerabilities we know the bad guys are exploiting. And then lastly, to tie it all together, unfortunately, repeat infections are the norm, but you can probably see where this is coming all together. So we have to ask some important questions. Why do we have a 55-day patching window? Why repeat infections? And then this is the most important one I want to ask is, if the bad guys are using more and more vulnerabilities, is your SOC team taking any of this intelligence in mind? Is it only a pre-action that your organization is taking before an attack? In the last 4 years, most of my interactions with customers, unless you're a very small team, is usually a team that does incident response and is a team that does the risk up front. So do they have availability to look at this information? And then, especially because we're talking about threat detection and response, what do we do about zero-day malware? What do we do about zero-day CVEs, right? Is there really any mitigation against this, or are we just left to kind of respond? So I want to put this chart up just to kind of baseline us. This is who we're all trying to protect our organizations from. Some of them attack the cloud. Some of them deploy ransomware. But are you guys surprised that 100% of them exploit vulnerabilities? I just say this as a coming back down to earth, because your SOC team, when they have IOCs or detections of malware, they're trying to figure out, is there attribution? Can they tell if it's one of these groups? But are they thinking about the exploits these groups are going to go after? So how are they measuring risk during an attack, right? And I have this lovely pie chart, but it's trying to look at the very specific vulnerabilities that threat actors, malware, and ransomware. There's a small intersect, right, that you can figure out. And this is where the title of the abstract comes, where if you think when you get attacked, it's like your house catches on fire. And who do you call? You call the fire department. They're like your SOC team. They come in, and their focus is, let's put out the fire, right? And that's what they should do. But are they measuring any risk? Are they doing any of that metrics? And so what we found is a big gap in the industry is that lack of insight for your SOC team, whether you guys as a vulnerability practitioner interacting with them or giving them the intelligence they need of saying, hey, we detected X, Y, or Z malware. Here's the vulnerabilities that are going to keep exploiting to go from one asset to multiple assets. So it's like with the house example. if you knew that you had 10 other houses that could light on fire just like the one that just happened, well, you'd want to go fix that immediately, right? And there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect in the industry of that measurement. So same thing with misconfigurations. Does your SOC team have access to misconfiguration information? This is the #1 way by far that one asset gets infected and then they lateral movement or privileged escalation. So just have to highlight this as well. And then the last thing too is unknown assets. So you guys have probably seen this metric a few times. Unfortunately, it's still true. And don't worry, I'm going to tie this all into a real-world use case where this actually all came to be. So we found an average about 30% of unmanaged assets for the average customer. And so that's a little scary and this doesn't mean you don't know about it, but you may not be managing it to the same level or awareness of your organization's standards. So let's actually get real about this. So I was going to present a case study about RansomHub, and this is not a good thing, but I guess it further validates the message. Ransom actually attacked one of our customers, and this customer is someone who is very transparent and open and willing to tell us their story. And I just say to look at the very first initial axis. You can see there's 8 or 9 vulnerabilities. They're all not great to have. This should further validate that sort of encapsulation. Are they using more vulnerabilities? Absolutely. And this is just what we know about, right? So moving forward, they have some privileged escalation where they, these vulnerabilities, unfortunately, we've seen them still be in existence. And then this is their overall how they look. So how did we go against RansomHub? Someone who could attack any of us in the room any day. So they did attack one of the devices with a CVE. This is a remote server, to no surprise, that this customer was hosting a web app on. They were very noisy. They were brute forcing every SSH port on every server that they could, and at the same time, so we certainly knew something was going on. This should be no surprise to you guys, but 100% of all the malware that they used was zero-day samples. This means no hits on virus total, never been seen before. Unfortunately, we were able to block all of that. This customer in particular did not use patch with us, which, fortunately I can say is becoming more of a rarity. They use VMDR and EDR and our anti-malware, and they found through this experience, we kind of helped them through it too with our threat research team, because we're open to doing that. But we show them how easy it is to connect the dots from, hey, it's pretty clear that these are the IOCs for RansomHub. Like I just showed you, here's some vulnerabilities they attack. Oh, you have 12 other assets that are affected or vulnerable in the same way. Do you think the odds are they're going to go after those assets? 100%. So they're able to patch all of that in real time. And then the persistence methods were pretty clever. So I'll talk more about this after the presentation, but remote access software, be very, very aware and cognizant of that. That's what I'd say. So traditional incident response is this. You have threat actors that try to attack you with malware, and they use tactics and procedures. This is where your endpoint tool today is going to give you the insights. Has utility, has value, there's no doubt. But this is where, just to go into the Qualys side, we're taking things 3 or 4 steps further, where, okay, you have malware. Here's the CVEs, the malware exploits, and the patches you can deploy. Same thing with misconfigurations. So this is the gap we're trying to fill, where you no longer have to guess about the risk quantification. So when an attack goes on, most of the times you don't know what to tell your bosses, right? Hey, we got an asset that got infected. Their first question is, what's the next likely outcome of this? Are we still at risk? Are we going to get more infections? And if you know you have CVEs misconfigurations that these groups exploit, now you can have a quantification. So I put this in here just to make sure. So this is in regards to the malware samples we saw and blocked. As you heard Sumedh talk about, there's a lot of hype in AI and machine learning. I'm kind of fearful that there's some vendors out there that put it on a marketing brochure, and their ML models may not be as good as they say it is. And I don't say that lightly, because it just scares me, because we're seeing these groups attack our customers and we're able to block things. And so I just would challenge you to make sure that your security is as tight as you think it is and has a machine learning aspect, because that's the way you're going to detect zero-day malware and CV exploitation, right? So some of these models, like ourselves, can detect suspicious activity, which is exploitation. One very unique thing that we do is we have a ransomware recovery, so ransomware mitigation. So picture all your assets, all your files on your servers getting encrypted. What if you could recover all of them? Well, we have a feature to do that. Now, we don't unencrypt the encryption. What we are doing is we have an engine that scans for encryption activity. And if it's very clear usually when it's bad encryption activity, and basically we will save copies of all your files. So this is a very unique feature that when we've been talking about this with Fortune 15, Fortune 25 type customers, they've been very interested because there's not many vendors that have this file sort of mitigation or saving. It just is in Windows too, I'll have to preface that. And then last thing too, if you guys heard, we have ESAM that complements our EDR. So in this use case where this customer is getting attacked, they were able to double check, do we have any SSH ports that we didn't know about that's open? Do we have any servers that may not have an agent on it that isn't up to our standards? So imagine being able to validate that immediately, where you're seeing all these brute forcing going on. You're seeing one of your assets, explode in activity, and your security tool is blocking a bunch of stuff, and our EDR is showing all this weird activity that you could go check and just say, hey, do we have anything else that's going to explode? Can we make sure we're locked down? So we do provide that from our platform perspective. So this is the demo here. It's going to go kind of quick. This is us just showing you an example of how to investigate activity with our product. I'll go back. So this is just what it looks like to respond. Our platform is going to tell you attribution where we can. It's not always possible. We're going to give you the details about the group. You can quarantine the asset. You can do a lot of actions right from here. We do have a timeline and process tree. The timeline is a step-by-step, how did the attack unfold. The process tree, which is my personal favorite, is a relationship mapping. I think a lot of you are going to, if you've interacted with an EDR, you see what this looks like. And the most unique thing where, when I talk about connecting vulnerabilities to real-time threats, it's not just using VMDR and EDR together. You could do that today. In fact, if you don't use our EDR, whatever you have today, you can go feed your SOC team this intelligence. What we do is lay it up for you. So imagine the malware and the CVs that are being exploited, knowing that, hey, I have 12 assets that have this 2020 CVE. Or one of the 2023 ones, something you just saw get exploited. And then yes, we do put the shiny patch now button there as well. That makes it very easy. And so we do the same thing with misconfigurations. Those two things are in the product today. The CSAM portion, the exposure portion is going to come in the first half of next year. But it's just basically combining the insights for your SOC team. And then this is the file recovery aspect. So this is the ransomware mitigation, where we've done this on thousands of files, and we tried all different type of ransomware group encryptions, but we can recover them, and again, just think of this utility on scale. The last thing I'm going to highlight, so we've got a lot of requests from some of our larger customers for you probably saw this in the True Risk Eliminate, but it comes from the EDR product, is automatically isolating hosts based on risky CVEs. So imagine that you have a vulnerability that gets exploited, and you say, you know what, we're going to set a rule. Any other assets that have this, just cut them off from connection, because it's too risky to allow those assets to be continuing to talk out to the world until we fix them. And so we have a complete automated cycle where if you define a risk factor, it's like, hey, these production servers, they're talking to the internet. If they have a QDS score of 90 above and it's a CISA known exploited vulnerability, you can have our EDR and VMDR automatically quarantine that for you. And then once you patch it and fix the vulnerability, it automatically gets released. So it's a very unique feature, and we're getting a lot more requests for it. So. All right, so that was a quick demo. Larry, thanks for being up here. Most important part here, we invited Larry to come along. I don't know if you got another selfie with Sumed, but I used the one from last year.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an old picture. Things have kind of changed this year. A little more gray, a couple more wrinkles.
Is that what security does to you? Or
What coworkers do to you at times. Unpatched vulnerabilities, they'll do a lot of that to you as well. And then general day-to-day worrying. Now the cameraman asked me to kind of stay in my seat and not move around too much. He didn't want to do too much work, so I'm going to stand a little bit because I've been sitting at this conference way too long.
I got you.
I don't like things to be boring, don't like things to be just another one of the sessions that you guys are in here with. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them to me during any of this. A little bit about me and the company I work for. It's Midwestern Pet Foods. We're headquartered out of Evansville, Indiana. We have manufacturing plants in Evansville, Monmouth, Illinois, Chickasha, Oklahoma, Waverly, New York. Pretty small company when it comes to it, 1,100 devices in total on the network, but it's a pretty large reaching company. Been in business since 1926, so yes, we're getting ready to hit our 100 years. And we ship product to 70 countries around the world. So quite far reaching with a very small footprint. Kind of like Qualys. A lot of bang for the buck in a very small package. So, marketing team made me say that one, sorry. So, we do employ Qualys as part of our security stack. And security stack is just like everything else. You don't want one thing doing everything because each part of your security stack has a small hole in it. Swiss cheese mentality, right? We've all heard it. And our job is to stack Swiss cheese to where we close out all the holes. Well, with Qualys and the modules that we use, BMDR, patch management, EDR, that's a lot of slices of Swiss cheese that I already have on the plate. Very few holes for me to utilize other security vendors or security products in there. So I've been brought in to talk about my experience with it. My experience started back in 21 when we initially rolled out Qualys. I'm thinking it's going to be a huge undertaking to get this new security software on all of our systems. Yeah, I am eyes open to how simplified the platform was at that point. 4 virtualized servers and pretty much a click to start deploying to those servers. A little bit of configuration in there. My technical account manager done a lot of the heavy lifting. Here's how you do. So he was teaching me how to fish. But things become more and more natural in there. So we started this whole huge ball of wax when I started out with Qualys, and there were thousands upon thousands of unpatched vulnerabilities within our network. In a very short amount of time, and I'm talking within 3 months, we were already down below 1,000 in our severity 5s. And this was, 500% reduction over top of what it was. Severity 4s were still up there. And I go to our TAM and I'm like, how do we get this one down even further? How do I take this huge heavy lift? I'm a very small team. I have 4 people on the team at that time. And we have so many other things that we're putting fires out. And I'll never forget what he told me. You can either deal with this now and start whittling this down, or you can pay the repercussions later. What's easier to explain to your leadership? Taking 2 days a week to dedicate to nothing but patch management and remediation, or taking 2 months to recover from ransomware. Pretty powerful statement at that point. Kind of drove it home. I'm happy to say our Qualys True Risk Score, as we sat here in this conference today, is barely above 200.
If you were,
Now, patch is just one portion of this, okay? Now we have to worry about the other holes the patching doesn't cover. That's the Swiss cheese. So we got introduced to endpoint detection and response. Well, just like every other person out here, I've got my TAM calling me up, hey, this is something that's going to be very beneficial in your department, very beneficial in your environment. Like every one of us out there, I'm like, okay, here comes the sales pitch. No meat on the bone, just, it's additional dollars to spend. Yeah, he come through and he give me a demo on it. And then he give me a trial, a free trial. Okay, well now I'm interested. Let's see how it starts working. So we deployed it. I'm thinking, okay, he's giving me a free trial, 15 days of this deployment's gonna be eat up, and I'm gonna have 15 days to evaluate this. Our deployment was 3 clicks. He went in, added the key to our account, went into our primary key, added patch management, and click save. When are we going to deploy it? We just did. Okay, let's say I'm from Missouri. Let's show me. If anyone of you don't know, Missouri, show me state. So he sits there, okay, which machine? Well, how about the one I'm sitting in front of? My administrative machine. Okay, and he pulls up. I see every process that's hitting on my machine, and I test this. This can't be real time, so I'm firing off Chrome, I'm firing off a couple of my other security tools, and well, this is cool. I'm able to see new registry rights, I'm able to see version checks, I'm able to see all this information that's happening on my machine that I would need another couple of security products to end up seeing. Okay, well what happens if I go here? And I go to one of my internal compromise check sites, and I fire it off. Yeah, my Chrome disappears. What happened? Oh, well, as soon as you fired it off, guess what? It got detected and it got shut down. Okay, well, that's great. That's a known signature out there, right? How about that unknown one? Let's say I've got an employee that goes to a website that I know is malicious, .cn site or what have you, and I want to kill it. How do I do that? Oh, you click this button over here that says kill process. Huh? Yeah, it's just that simple. Yeah, at that point, he knew he had already had a sell, and we hadn't even got into day 2 of the demo. So that's my story on how we're continuing this process. Our story is not done. Our story will not be done. Because just like everything else in business, it's constantly changing. New threats are emerging, and new actors are coming out to sit there and hammer our business and stop us from supplying dog food to the rest of the world. Well, myself and my team, with the help of Qualys, is not going to allow that. So I know we just got a couple of minutes left. Anybody got any questions? Oh, come on, I hate the crickets.
it's okay, I got a good joke to end. Joke I'm going to steal from you.
Oh,
So
here we go.
This endpoint security solution, which you hope we would say is the same solution Qualys uses internally for its own security. That's what we built it around. So Subed said it yesterday, and because I have somebody who works at a pet company, we eat our own dog food. Nah? Okay.
Okay, yeah, I gotta leave on that one, jump off the cliff. No, it's true, and it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So not one single question from the entire crowd. One comment from the crowd?
They're waiting till after.
They're waiting till it's done.
All right, well, thank you everyone for your time. Appreciate it. We are at time, and we'll talk to you after the presentation.